Today, we are diving into how to evaluate a vacation rental property. How do you evaluate a vacation rental property? Are there certain things you need to evaluate that make a world of difference? There absolutely is. And by the end of this video, I will show you exactly how to evaluate vacation rental properties using a formula that's been an absolute game changer for me. Just like most things in life, when you make the proper evaluation, it can make all the difference between a great situation and a challenging one. Vacation rentals are no different. The challenge with vacation rentals is there are so many things to consider when evaluating a vacation rental. But don't worry, I'm going to break that down for you today by first giving you the general rule of thumb when looking at vacation rental properties. Then I will dive into the numbers and give you the categories you need to account for when doing the proper evaluation and how to analyze it. And finally, I will show you how vacation rental properties can make your cash-on-cash return better than most of your real estate investments. If you're ready, let's go. So let's talk about the evaluation of vacation rental properties. Like most real estate investments, the same principles apply, and vacation rentals are no different. Number one, we've got to look at location. Location, like anything else, makes a huge difference when you're purchasing a vacation rental property or any other piece of real estate, because where it exists, is it going to get the traffic? Is it going to have people staying there? Is it going to get the numbers? Are the financials going to add up to make it worth it? Are you going to be able to make enough money with this piece of property in order to pay all the bills? And where it sits, where the location is the number one factor when determining that. Obviously, other things to consider are the financials, which we'll dive deep into that here in just a minute, but also understand appreciation. And that goes once again with area. Is the property going to appreciate over time? Is it in such a spot that there's a demand that over time the property valuation is going to continue to rise and go up? But first off, when I evaluate a vacation rental property, there's a general rule of thumb that I always look at. And here's what it is. Number one, when you look at the purchase price of the vacation rental property, you want to make sure that annual rents, annual revenue coming from that piece of property is at least 10% of the purchase price. If it's at least 10%, it's an okay deal. It's something you can evaluate even further. So let's take, for example, you find a piece of property that's being sold at $500,000. You need to make sure that the annual rents are at least $50,000 to even begin the rest of the evaluation. And if you find them at 15%, that's obviously a keeper. Now, if you can find a vacation rental property where annual rents are 20% of the purchase price, we say that is a do not pass up deal. That's one you want to get no matter what the situation is. You want to try to secure that, acquire that piece of property, because that's one that's going to produce really good returns year over year. Now, when you do a deeper dive into the evaluation and financials of a vacation rental piece of property, you need to look at the net operating income. Obviously, that is where your total income minus all your expenses is going to give you that. So a few things that go underneath that obviously is the mortgage payment, the platform booking fees, maintenance, capital expenditures, payments to cleaners, utilities, and management fee if you're having somebody else manage it for you. And obviously, the biggest expense you're going to have when you buy a vacation rental property is that mortgage payment. Here's the biggest challenge we face in today's market. It's interest rates. About 3 to 5 years ago, interest rates were really low, between 2 to 4%. That is going to make a world of difference in your mortgage payment. Today, with interest rates close to 7.5%, 8%, a lot of those mortgage payments that people got back 3 to 5 years ago are going to be almost double what they were 3 to 5 years ago. So that is going to make these numbers that you put in there that much more challenging to make sense of. Is it still possible? Absolutely. Are there loan programs out there that you can find that you can get a lower interest rate? Absolutely. But it definitely breeds a challenge in today's market where interest rates are so high. And I think there's a lot of people sitting on the sideline that are waiting for interest rates to go back down. Will they? It's hard to say. It's predicted to go down, but you never know. Now what I'd like to do is actually do just a deep dive on the whiteboard with you to show you exactly how I've evaluated my vacation rental properties. Let's break it all down. Now, this is going to be a lot. You can go through the video numerous times to understand this, but this is exactly how I evaluated all the short-term rentals that I currently own. First off, let's start with the purchase price. I'm going to run you through an example of a home that we bought in Broken Bow, Oklahoma, and the cost of that home was $550,000. Now, because it was a second home, my partner and I, he was able to secure the loan with 10% down, 10% of $550,000, $55,000. So estimating closing costs, we usually factor that at about 3.5% depending on the area, but let's do 3.5% just to be safe, which the total for that of the purchase price is $19,250. So the total cash to close, $74,250. Now let's let's figure out the mortgage payment. We're looking at a 30-year loan, 10% down. The mortgage is going to be about $495,000 at 3.5%. Now, I know a lot of you are probably saying, man, that would be so awesome to get that. And it was. We secured this property about 3.5 years ago, and we were able to get 3.5% on that. And the loan payment, principal and interest, came to $2,250. Insurance in that area is $200. Taxes about $250 a month. Total mortgage payment, $2,750 for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Now let's walk through the expenses and the income and see how much money this property really makes. Okay, what is the average list price per night that we, on average, get for this property? It comes in around $250. It's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. Usually people that are traveling from Dallas, Little Rock, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, that are looking for a getaway for 2, 3, 4 nights in a really nice 1-bedroom, 1-bath with a jacuzzi, a fireplace, outdoor cooking area. It's a great spot in the trees in Broken Bow, close to the lake, that they feel like they're getting away for 2.5, 3 hours from the big city, and they can relax and just completely get away, almost like a honeymoon destination for a lot of people. So that's what we bought there, knowing that would be our target audience. So the average per night that people are paying us to stay there is about $250. And if you think about it, it is a great alternative to a stay at a hotel, right? So $250 is the average nightly rate that we get for this property. And the occupancy rate is something you need to look at. That is what percentage of the year is it occupied? Is it 50%? Is it 60%? Most of the time when you look at a property, it needs to be north of 60, 70% for it to make sense. And with interest rates as high as they are right now, it might even need to be a little bit higher than that. But for this piece of property, believe it or not, it's at 77% occupancy rate, which brings annual revenue to $70,263. So that is the total annual revenue that this piece of property brings in and year out. We've had years where it's been 81%, 82% occupancy rate, and as low as like 74, 75%. So on average, we figure 77% is a really good average that we can base the property and all the financials off of. Now, a platform fee, whether it's Vrbo or Airbnb, they're going to charge a 3%. 3% of the $70,000 is going to be $2,108. Hotel tax at 2.75 is going to be just over $1,700. And maintenance. Now, our place was fairly new when we bought it, so maintenance was a little bit lower, but even 4% of the annual revenue is going to be close to that $2,800. And then obviously capital expenditures. This is the money that you spend to upgrade the property over time or to buy new furniture, beds. We factor that at 2.5%, which comes to just over $1,700. Now utilities, rather than breaking those down for you, I could, but this is what you're looking at when it comes to utilities. You've got electric, water, internet, cable, trash, if that's part of it. I lumped all of ours together for an annual expense, and that comes to $3,400. Where this is a single family home, there's no HOA that you have to pay or be a part of, and so our expenses for the year for utilities is $3,400. And I always like to put a miscellaneous in there just because you never know what's going to happen. So our miscellaneous for the entire year is about $600. All right, now we take our mortgage payment of $2,700. Let's add that in there. So when you add all this together, you times the mortgage times 12, you take all the annual expenses for the entire year is just over $46,000. Now, cleaning's a part of it. Obviously, the guest pays for that. We included that in our 77% of occupancy rate, but our cleaners charge $125 to clean. Once again, it's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, so it's not real crazy to go ahead and clean. But if it's $125, our turnover every month, we average about 6. So 125 times 6 is going to be about $725 each month. So the total annual cleaning expense we have is $9,000. And our total expense for the year is just over $54,000. So we've done all the work. We've evaluated all our annual expenses. We know our total revenue. So if we subtract our expenses from our revenue, that gives us our net operating income or operating profit for the year, which comes to $24,055, which is just about $2,000 a month of operating profit coming in from the property. Now you might say, man, that seems like a lot of work just to make $24,000. But here's where it becomes really interesting when you evaluate a vacation rental property is look at the cash on cash return. So we're making $24,000 a year. Our total outlay of cash at the beginning when we first bought this property was a little over $74,000. And if you divide that into the operating income of $24,000, your cash on cash return is 32.4%. So that's pretty good, 32.4%. If you were to come to me and say, listen, I've got some money I want to invest it. And if I were to tell you you, go ahead and give me $74,000 and every single year I will give you $24,000. Would that not be one of the best investments you've ever heard of? That's why vacation rental properties can be such a great investment, right? You get money every single month. Now there's expenses, there's time involved. It's definitely not just passive income that comes in. You've actually got to put in the work if you're managing yourself. Now, one caveat to this evaluation that I did, if you do have a property management company managing it for you, obviously you're going to save a whole bunch of time, but you're going to pay more. Most of them, especially in this area, are paying 20, 25, 30%. We had one at one time for 1 year was paying 25% of the annual income. So 25% of 70,000 is roughly about $18,000 a year. So it took out quite a bit of our profit where we're making about $7,000 a year versus $24,000. Now, if you value your time more, and that's still a 10% cash on cash return, but overall, we decided to self-manage because we wanted that higher cash on cash return, and vacation rental properties can be that for you. Now, this is what I've experienced with some of my rentals. I would love to hear what you've done. I would love to hear how you evaluate your properties. And as always, I have this exact calculator that I'm giving as a free gift, aaronsfreetraining.com. Go there, you put the numbers in there, and it'll spit out to you all these numbers, whether it's a good deal or whether it isn't. Once again, thanks for stopping by. Have an awesome day.